Is Dishonored worth playing in 2021? Dishonored 1 released about 9 years ago now and was an entirely new IP from Bethesda, crafted by the very talented team over at Arkane Studios. Following the conventions of most Bethesda games being a first-person action-adventure game, Dishonored still was able to create an identity of its own while still borrowing some of the traits and features that have been presented in Bethesda's giant video game portfolio. But is the game worth returning to or worth playing for the first time 9 years after its release? Today we'll be talking about the narrative and gameplay of Dishonored 1. Of course, there'll be absolutely no spoilers in this part of the video. Now, I'll just give you a little synopsis of the game's main themes and the story points without spoiling anything major. Dishonored is set in the plague-ravaged city of Dunwall, and Dishonored follows the story of Kova, a man who was once the bodyguard to the royal empress Jasmine Coldwind and is framed for her subsequent murder and for the abduction of her daughter Emily. Kova is then falsely imprisoned by the empress's royal spy master. 6 months after, while he is still inside his prison cell on the eve of his consequential execution, he escapes the prison cell with the help of a shadowy group of loyalists who want to eliminate all those that are involved in the murder of their beloved empress. So the whole story sees Kova trying to find the daughter of the empress, who he had built a sort of father-daughter bond with, and the game sees Kova go through many different interconnecting plot points and many plot twists that I didn't really see coming, which was awesome to see. Kova's transformation from just a royal bodyguard to a feared and infamous assassin was incredible, as he pursues and murders every person who was involved with the murder of his beloved empress. Dishonored does also have multiple endings as well, and is really based on the actions of Kova and the karma associated with it, and as well as player choices that a person takes throughout the game, which can significantly impact some specific parts of the game's narrative, but it isn't as deep as the story choices in other Bethesda games such as the Elder Scrolls series and Fallout New Vegas, but it's a subtle addition which still adds a little bit more flair to the game's main campaign. Overall, the story does definitely take a backseat to the game's stellar gameplay, but it was still good enough to keep me engaged right from the start, and was well written in general. Dishonored is a first-person action-adventure game, much like Bethesda's other franchises, and it does generally follow the same format of Bethesda's other games as well. But the focus of Dishonored is affecting the dark and gloomy world and city of Dunwall as you go on your bloodthirsty quest for vengeance for your deceased empress. But your actions, decisions, and approach to playing the game affects the world around you and the narrative as well, all primarily through the implications of Kova's own actions, the player's actions. Dishonored leaves a lot of its gameplay to be built upon the conception of player choice, and Kova's actions will forever affect how you will approach the game in each scenario, and there's much freedom as to how you can approach each objective in the game, such as the two styles of non-lethal and lethal bloody combat. Kova has a wide variety of weapons at his disposal, as well as an array of different and unique-ified supernatural abilities. Killing enemies and assassinating key targets within Kova's vicinity fills up an adrenaline gorge, and once it is full, players can use a more variety of Kova's skills and abilities, such as his blink ability, which is his teleporting ability, his time stopping ability, and many other unique and fun to play with abilities. Although you can go to each mission utilizing the combat prowess of Kova, as well as your own creative solutions that would allow you to approach your kills straight on, Kova is well versed in the fine arts of stealth, and any and every mission within the game has a route that allows for the utilization of stealth in mind, sneaking through the environment, killing or knocking out enemies slowly, making your way to your ultimate target, all without getting detected. The game's parkour is another part of its stellar playability, and just one of the fun things in Dishonored in general, and each of the game's main missions and the level designs within them focuses on the aspect of verticality, which allows the player to approach objectives while utilizing the parkour within the game, as you are able to experience each level in sewers and waterways all the way to the top of the game's rooftops, slowly parkouring as a true assassin would do to finally kill your target. Kova is quite agile himself, and paired with his blinking ability, which allows him to quickly traverse across rooftops and other obstacles, makes the gameplay a lot more fun and enjoyable in general. Kova's free-running expertise allows him to scale buildings, slide under obstacles, and sprint across platforms, utilizing his arsenal of supernatural abilities, which further allow him to really get the most out of his powers and of his movement in general. The game isn't open world by any sense like most of Bethesda's other games, but the levels are designed so well and the maps that it allows you to traverse are diversified from one another, even when the game makes you return to old maps in later points in the game, but with different and more unique ways to traverse that same map, which makes each area and environment fun to explore and traverse, and it makes it so it never gets boring or repetitive either, with the different obstacles, approaches, and environments that are spread across the game's levels. These areas are also huge and are open to the player exploring them as well, with hidden rewards and experiences awaiting for the player who are more adventurous, instead of just following a linear path set for you. Dishonored's combat is easily its best feature in my opinion, and the supernatural abilities and the expertise of Kova in combat makes the gameplay so much damn fun. Using the power of swarming rats all over your enemies to stop time completely as you watch your enemies try and hit you, just for you to go behind them in this different realm of time, beheading them brutally with your polished sword of steel, using the bombs and grenades within the game to take out groups of foes, to using the good old-fashioned sword to mutilate your foes in the battlefield, using stealth to knock out enemies, or using your crossbow or gun to take out enemies as well. There's just so much diversity to how each person can approach the combat mechanics featured in this fantastic game. Dishonored also features a well-made chaos system that tracks the game's world state and is directly affected by Kova's choices and actions during the missions he is sent on. This can change the game's dialogue as well as the state of the world that you traverse in each of the game's levels. The more destructive your style of play is, the more chaotic and darker the world will get in return of your actions and choices. Some actions are not as chaotic as others, such as just killing a guard, but raising an alarm or killing a civilian in daylight provokes a greater response from the game's chaos system. Some of the few gameplay changes featured due to how you play the game are in-game adjustments such as altered rat populations or slight differences in dialogue with the game's NPCs. But then there's the more noticeable changes that are a result of your high chaos within the game, such as more guards appearing on patrols or characters changing the way that they interact with Kova himself. When chaos reaches its most critical levels, more chaos ensues within the world itself, such as NPCs beginning to attack each other, rats swarming each of the game's areas, and the world becomes a lot more dark and nightmarish, all due to the way that you play the game. The player can choose how they want to play, either using non-lethal methods to restrict themselves to a more low chaos style, or just murdering every person within their path, being a more high chaos style. The AI in this game is also pretty decent and holds up quite well today as well, and the AI is quite good at noticing whether you're killing their comrades even when you do it in a stealth scenario as well. So yes, Dishonored is worth playing in 2021 and is a phenomenally crafted game even 9 years after its initial release, and it holds up incredibly well in my opinion. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope I was able to convince you to buy this fantastic game. Let me know what you think about Dishonored 1 if you've already played it down in the comments below, and let me know whether you bought the game because of this video. Anyway, that's all from me for today's video. Peace.